Welcome to the Andy Staples Show presented by Sling. Post-game Ohio State, Michigan edition. Michigan 45, Ohio State 23. Ari Wasserman. Holy cow. That was not the result we expected at all.
I got fooled again, Andy. I got fooled again.
So here's the thing. I'm not going to give away the exact contents of our text string early in the day. But both of us, as we watched, it started with you texting me the weather in Columbus, 50 and sunny. I'm like, oh, this does not bode well for Michigan. And basically our text string was Ohio State can out-athlete them. The result last year is fooling us. And I remember the last thing I texted you before it felt like the worm turn was JJ McCarthy's going to have to be Superman for this to work. Damned if he wasn't Superman.
Yeah. It's a hell of a performance. And that's the thing that I think that's most interesting about the rivalry now in comparison to what it was when I was on the beat, which is you had a 5-star quarterback and a 5-star running back shut the door, and these are the types of players.
Donovan Edwards had an unbelievable second half. You saw it, even playing with that club on his hand.
Yeah. It's just a remarkable win for Michigan. There's no other way to put it. And the rivalry is different now.
It's a rivalry. It's not one team kicking the crap. Well, actually, it is one team kicking the crap out of the other.
It is. Yeah,
it is. There's some variation as to who's doing what.
Yeah. I thought that this game was going to be a return to the norm. If you listen to the podcast coming into it, and if you watch the first quarter of this game and we're part of the text,
between the lines,
I thought
knew what you were saying. Yeah.
And the Vegas line too. The way that the Vegas line was moving in the beginning of the game, or right in the last hour before the kickoff, that the line moved up to 9. And I think I've even seen 9.5 in some places when they decided right after Blake Corum announced that he was playing. I was like, oh boy, this weather's out there. Ryan Day's been fixating on this for a year. The analysis of Michigan being able to win this game was anybody.
And then you watched Blake Corum try to carry and you knew he's not doing it. He's not right. Yeah. So something's off. And yeah, it was.
And Michigan couldn't run the ball for the entire first half.
Nope.
Ohio State looked in complete and utter control of the game for 2 quarters, and it was weird that they were only winning by 3 at halftime.
Jim Knowles hired to save the defense, to turn it around so it wouldn't be soft like it was against Michigan last year. He's calling 0 blitzes when they don't need to be.
Yeah.
And they're having coverage busts or you're having situations where Michigan gets behind the defense and McCarthy's hitting. And good on JJ McCarthy and good on Michigan's receivers for recognizing what's going on and making that play. But that's also the coach's fault for putting his team in that situation. He didn't need to be in that situation.
Yeah. So it is a truly remarkable situation here. And I think that there's really one question to be had. And that is, if you're in a position right now where you're analyzing Ohio State's situation, what do you do with the coach? And I'm not saying fire him. He's not going to be fired. I don't think he's going to be fired. But there has to be a real discussion about what's off here. Because the second that Ohio State punted in plus territory in the third quarter, midway through the third quarter, the entire game got away from them. And I think that there is a coaching temperament. And this is my theory, that if you play scared or you make calls that imply that you're fearful, that this is the type of thing that can happen as a result because your team feeds off of you. It's a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing. I thought that was a
Ohio State ran the ball effectively in the first half, but didn't run it enough for Michigan to even be worried about. Michigan was not worried in the least about Ohio State running the ball in the second half.
Right.
Now they made some incredible, the Mikey Sainristil play in the end zone was unbelievable.
Yeah.
That was still very much a game when he makes that play, but he turns that from a touchdown into a field goal. It's a 4-point swing on that play. It was incredible. I don't want to take away from the individual performances of the Michigan defenders, especially the guys in the secondary.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. We'll get to Day and what this means for Day a little bit later. Here's the thing that I think is most interesting. Last year when Ohio State lost to Michigan, they got out-toughed. Michigan had a game plan, and they did everything in their power to run the football and to control the line of scrimmage and just out-tough them to the win. And that was all the analysis this year is, will they be able to do this again? Is Ohio State a finesse team? Are they weak? Are they
Right?
Michigan didn't come out today and play that game.
They
They came out
them.
and just beat them the way that Ohio State beats people, which is beating them over the top, throwing the ball downfield. And they did it by freelancing with a 5-star quarterback who was able to get away from pressure and make plays downfield. Now, Ohio State,
when their running game wasn't working, they went to J.J. McCarthy on the ground, and it got their running game going. And it also got Ohio State on its heels a little bit defensively and allowed the passing game to get better too.
Yeah, right. And you put the ball in your 5-star quarterback's hands and you let him do things. And that's not something that Michigan needed or had last year on the field. Mm-hmm. And we weren't sure because, listen, there was a stat I saw on Twitter this day during the game that Michigan only had one pass play of 60-plus yards the entire season. And I think they popped 3 on Ohio State. Maybe was it 3 or 4? It was 3 at least.
Well, yeah, one was like 48. But here's the thing. We've said this on the podcast all year. Just because J.J. McCarthy hasn't thrown them to a win doesn't mean he can't. It means he's never been asked to. He got asked to do a lot today, and he did it. He did exactly. This is, and we said it with the kind of fakakta quarterback competition.
Fakakta.
I mean, yeah. We said it when it happened. We're like, oh, this is Jim Harbaugh trying to make everybody feel better that he's not going to start the guy who led them to a Big Ten title last year because he thinks JJ's better.
And this was the type of guy, and like I went back and I think I even tweeted a screenshot of it, but I visited JJ McCarthy in high school. And I don't know if people realize this, but Ohio State recruited McCarthy and they kind of did him dirty a little bit. You know, they courted him they courted him.
There's 2 spots. Maybe if you hurry up.
And then they fell in love with someone else. They took the other guy and he felt spurned by that. And then went to Michigan, and obviously we're here today. And it's just a interesting dynamic when you see what a player of his caliber can do when he's on your team. You know, like everybody's throwing stars matter in my face right now, and it's true. Like Ohio State has more stars. I think
stars did matter.
Like, stars
5
literally
stars for
matter.
Michigan. 2 5-stars for Michigan came up massive today.
The most important players on the field were 5-star prospects. And, you know, the Ohio State-Michigan game that we went to together in 2019, I thought was a testament to why the rivalry was dead because only Ohio State was getting them. Mm-hmm. And now Michigan has increased their output a little bit. It's still not where Ohio State is, but they've increased their output, especially with skill. And like, listen, dude, they had a 5-star quarterback.
A special quarterback closes a gap.
And they had a 5-star corner covering Marvin Harrison in the second half in that game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they had some key players there making some big time plays. So like to me, like Michigan, I am convinced that Michigan is a better football team this year moving on into the playoff than I was last year.
Oh, yes.
Because I thought
especially after what we saw today, like J.J. McCarthy they're not going to have to play at Georgia. They're going to play. We don't know who they're going to play.
They're going to probably win. They're going to maybe play for a national title this year.
Yeah.
And if you watch Georgia play on Saturday, I don't know. I don't know if they can beat Georgia. I'm not there yet, but they are a very good football team.
Let's throw this to Ono224 because Ono224 had the most, I think, prescient comment about this earlier this season. But right now, saying Michigan doing this is good for college football, the rivalry not being a foregone conclusion anymore is awesome. I agree completely. But you said it, Ono224, a month ago? Michigan is built to beat Ohio State. Ohio State is built to hang 50 on Michigan State. And you could not have been any more correct.
Yeah, but I think that was kind of like, he was right, but like that was kind of a diagnosis of what happened last year. Like maybe the thought process here has to be that Michigan has a 5-star quarterback out there, and it's kind of an ode to what I was trying to say before last year when I said he should have started from the beginning.
I think it's a combination of both things because look at how it snowballed on Ohio State. There was still a chance, and even when the second half started, you're like, listen, if Ohio State has a couple good drives, they can get in control of this game, they can win this thing, and it'll look pretty easy by the end of it. But every single possession, every time something else happened, it played more into Michigan's hands. And Michigan when you saw Michigan starting to run the ball late in the third quarter, you're like, oh crap.
What happened there? When was the game lost?
It turned in the mid third quarter.
It was right when they punted.
Yep.
That was it, in my opinion. When they punted the ball, and you go back into my Twitter timeline, I said, Ohio State just punted the ball in plus territory, and this is the first time I could consider them actually losing this football game. And from that point on, Ohio State didn't have a shot because it was a cowardly punt, and your team absolutely plays off of that. I want to talk about, Catherine
B, nervous birds.
Nervous birds. When you do that, what message are you sending to your roster?
Right.
We can't get 4 yards with this offense. I'm not sure. We got to play field position. It's like, why did Ohio State's not built to play Iowa football? Ohio State is built to kill the opposition against their will at all costs. And sending your football team out there to kick the ball away for 20 yards of field position only to set up a 10-play, 80-yard touchdown drive, you're telling your team, I don't think you're good enough to get this done. And
who made that decision? Who makes that decision? That's the head coach.
Yeah, that's the head coach. And
let's talk about the head coach.
And I don't know, listen, there's been a lot of John Cooper talk out there. Okay. And on the podcast, but on the podcast before, I said when they canceled senior tackle, that gave me John Cooper vibes because if you are tight, your team will be tight.
Right.
And canceling traditions is tightness. Right?
Right, exactly.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I thought that Ryan Day or think Ryan Day is John Cooper right now. I think you've got to lose a lot more than he's lost to get to that point.
Actually, you just have to lose to Michigan more because he
I know.
He won a lot against the rest of the Big Ten.
Wasn't Cooper 2-9-1?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a long period.
We're not quite there yet. And also Michigan and Cooper lost to Michigan teams that weren't very good with regularity when Ohio State was stacked.
Correct.
So I think that is like a, hyperbolic thing, from a guy who's prone to use hyperbole. But what I do know is that Ryan Day's coaching in this game was poor. Ohio State was the more talented team. And if you want, honestly, I thought the final score at the end of the first quarter was going to be 44-14. Ryan Day's not going to get fired tomorrow.
No.
But if you're the head coach who's recruiting at a high level and putting on a team onto the field that is supposed to compete for national championships, and you're getting your butt kicked. They didn't just lose the games. They got their ass kicked 2 years in a row. You go into the final, you go to the next season.
Listen to this. This person apparently doesn't know us very well. Ari is the biggest SEC homer there is. He's a jerk who never gives the Big Ten any credit. These two morons always claim Ohio State is an SEC school. I don't think you understand the dynamic here. Uncommon too. I think you've misread
I'm a pretty big
everything.
SEC homer. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Exactly.
I've been accused of being an Ohio State homer a lot, and I'm just trying to be real. So take it.
Boski, talk about the winners. Rewind 5 minutes. We did.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about the losers.
We're only 13 minutes into this bad boy. We might go for 2 hours. I don't know how long this is going to go. But you put your team in a position, in your program in a position now where they are an underdog in a rivalry that was all but dead 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And you have the team to do it. And the thing that really is tough is when you have the roster that's built to win a national championship and this is happening, that's even worse. So what is it? It's not the players. People are tweeting at me, he only won the one game with Urban's players. Like, if you think the players are the problem, you got a lot to catch up on. It's not the players. It's the coach's temperament. And
Alex
every
Kirshner
time you lose, it gets worse.
Alex Kirshner from Split Zone Duo had a really funny tweet or series of tweets today. He said Ryan Day seems like a very, rooted, know where your feet are, kind of salt of the earth, normal guy. In other words, he might not be cut out for this rivalry.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Urban Meyer was a maniac. Jim Harbaugh is a maniac.
And listen, I know Ryan, and I think he's a great guy, and it's really hard to, put him in a position where it's he stinks or he should get fired or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that you are graded in this job by how you do in this game. Mm-hmm. And so far during his Ohio State tenure, they have done exceedingly awful in this game. It's been awful. And what happened on the field in Ohio Stadium in weather, nobody had the flu today. Okay. There was no snow, indoor facility, or whatever you want to say. None of that happened. They just got their butts kicked again. And you're supposed to spend all year obsessing over this in order to do it. And you pay a defensive coordinator $2 million to come in and fix your defense, and that defense continually gives up touchdowns with the game on the line. So, like, there's a lot of issues. And last year when Ohio State lost this game, the reaction to that was to fire the defensive staff, bring in somebody new, and address it, right? Mm-hmm. So if it happens again after you do that, then what's the response this time? Try again or make changes.
It is very interesting because it's such a razor's edge. Now, I will say it's not as much of a razor's edge at Ohio State because they're always good. Like Ohio State, no matter who's coaching, is good. So it's not like if you do make significant changes, you're going to all of a sudden fall into the dumpster, as has happened to other programs. But you do have to be careful because they got a good thing going here.
Yeah.
But
well, now they're going to miss the playoff for the second straight year.
Maybe. Let's talk
what
about
happened
that.
at the end of that game. They're out of the playoff.
They looked.
In my opinion. Yeah,
okay,
that was
okay. You're very much being a prisoner of the moment because here's what might happen. You ready? Here we go.
Yeah.
Clemson lost to South Carolina. That was a great game that was happening concurrently with this game. I apologize to South Carolina. I know the South Carolina fans understood what I was saying when I said the moment after the Tennessee game ended that Clemson was going to beat them 35-10. Like every South Carolina fan was feeling that. But to see them go up there and beat Shane Beamer's a hell of a coach. Like that was incredible. Yep. Clemson's out. The ACC's out. Okay. Ohio State is probably not out. If USC loses to Notre Dame tonight or in the Pac-12 title game, they're out. Ohio State's not. Who else are you putting in at that point?
Yeah, I guess it is possible that we're getting Ohio State, Georgia in the first round of the semifinal.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say after watching the first half of Georgia and Georgia Tech, on the right day, that could be a hell of a game.
Wouldn't it be something if Ohio State played Michigan in the national title this year?
That would be incredible.
I mean, it could happen.
But
I mean, I don't think that Ohio State can beat Georgia, but if that's the way it would set up, it'd be Michigan, TCU in the first round, right?
Do you think this would happen again if they played again?
I do.
Interesting, because you said to me, if last year's result doesn't happen the way it does, are we even thinking this is a game?
We have this year's result.
5 days ago.
Yeah, but we have this year's result now.
Okay.
We just watched it 5 minutes ago.
I still think that game could have turned at any point, and Ohio State could have won it.
Well, Ohio State had the flu, and it was outdoors, and it was cold out. So maybe if they play in the dorm.
I know. I'm not making excuses for them. I'm just telling you how this works.
I think it's hard to beat the same team twice. I think Ohio State could beat that Michigan team.
Okay.
I think 3 or 4 different plays go a certain way. Ohio State has a chance.
I'm telling you right now, they're not out. Now, I will say one thing after watching the first half of Georgia Tech, and really the first 3 quarters of it. Remember how I was like, there's no way LSU's beating Georgia? I'm backing off that a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
I'm backpedaling a little bit.
I'm trying to look if TCU loses, do you take a 1-loss TCU over a 1-loss Ohio State?
I do, because of what I have been saying over and over again about I think the Big 12 was really good this year. There are no breaks. You can't sleepwalk and win a game, all that stuff. But here's the thing. This is where the conference championship thing will matter or it won't. I think if they were to lose today and then win the conference championship, then maybe it's fine and TCU's in. If they lose in the conference championship game, which, by the way, the Sunflower Showdown is going to determine whether Texas is in that game. It could be K-State or Texas. Like, if they lose...
I was so locked in on this rivalry game this morning that I need to recharge myself.
Well, I'm saying, college football, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody's saying, whoa, Ohio State's definitely out. And yes, I watched the same end of that game that you saw. I saw them get their asses beat. And I'm telling you right now, they're not out yet.
Yeah, well, I just I think it'll be very curious if we get debates.
If TCU wins out and USC wins out, no problem.
They're out.
They're definitely out. If LSU beats Georgia, they're probably definitely out. So there are ways that can happen.
Yeah.
But given the things that can happen in a very unpredictable sport with the age group that is the most unpredictable of all age groups, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they still make the playoff.
Yeah, no, I guess I could see that, and I would love to see Ohio State play Georgia. I think that the biggest loser of the day right now is Georgia.
Yeah, you don't want to see Ohio State.
It's like Georgia was gonna
no.
be in a position where they might get to play another team.
They're like, come on, Trojans. Come on.
Yeah. And maybe if you play Michigan again and it's not the same rivalry aspect of it, but the fact is you have to focus on what Ohio State's situation is right now.
And I don't want to see Michigan because Blake Corum might be healthy.
Yeah. But Ohio State,
what I want to see.
Ohio State's in a position right now where it has a coach where people don't think or that they think is afraid or will melt in the moment when they play Michigan. Like that's their reality.
Yeah.
That's a pretty heavy thing to say.
Lester Lee, shouldn't Michigan jump Georgia this week? No. If Georgia had won 10-7 against Georgia Tech, I would have probably been like, yeah, sure.
But does Michigan have the best win in college football this year?
They do.
They went from not having a resume to the best emphatic win in college football.
But Georgia also has a resume that includes destroying Oregon, destroying South Carolina, which, oh, by the way, 8-win team that just beat Clemson.
Yeah.
Destroying Tennessee when Tennessee was the hottest thing going. Not that it matters because I'm a what they are at the end of the season guy. So the problem is Georgia's resume is thicker, I guess. But you could say the Michigan's win against Penn State is certainly on the level of any of those wins. So I'd be fine with that. If you want to flip-flop Michigan and Georgia, it wouldn't bother me. I just don't think they're going to.
Yeah. I mean, and Georgia's going to win the SEC championship game, and when they do, then that'll be another notch on their belt.
Right. So LSU's going to move. Here's the question. This is a more interesting question. Does Ohio State fall behind LSU? I think they do.
Does Ohio State move? Well, do you? Yeah. I mean, depending on what happens. Right.
LSU has to beat Texas A&M. We're assuming here.
Yeah, I think that Ohio State will probably be
5 or 6, probably
5 or 6.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to look at the numbers here. So Oregon could lose today, so they're out. Clemson, if they do lose, I mean they're out of top 9. Clemson lost. Alabama's playing a tight game so far early on with Auburn.
We also may see if USC, and I realize all of this could be obliterated in a few hours, but if USC plays really well and just clobbers Notre Dame, and LSU very much struggles with Texas A&M, they'll flip flop them. Yeah,
I think that the whole thing here is if you're talking about the route back in for Ohio State is that they need teams that in the way to have crucial losses. I think where Ohio State falls in the playoff ranking doesn't even matter. I think what happens here now is you have to hope if you're an Ohio State fan that TCU and USC
you need help. Yeah, you need help. It's not happening just as a matter of course. Some things have to happen to get Ohio State.
Yeah, but I've also been a proponent of if you get dude, Jason T told me to let it go.
Ohio State.
I brought it up.
Jason, try paying attention. I'm the one saying that Ohio State's not out. Ari is the one who said they were out.
I got news for everybody. If people think I'm sad right now, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm doing good.
Yeah.
What were we just talking about before that idiots chimed in? I can't even remember.
We were talking about Ohio State and its chances.
Oh yeah, so they need crucial losses ahead of them. Where they're ranked, I don't think is necessarily important. But the thing that what I was saying was I was always anti blowout losses, right? My opinion has always been if you get your ass kicked or you're blown out, you're out.
Done.
You're done.
Yeah.
But the fact is that everybody has one.
Right. LSU sitting there with one. USC is the only one that doesn't have it. USC's got a 1-point loss. So they're really the only ones.
Yeah, but USC would have to lose in a scenario where the comparison matters, so they would be out anyway. Right. I'm talking about the teams that Ohio State would be directly compared to.
Yeah. I know. I'm with you. So we're going to find out. Now, we got a lot more football to watch today. So everybody, just hang with us. If something crazy happens in this midday window, we'll come back and do another one of these. If not, then we'll see you again after the night games when we record the usual post-game reaction podcast.
We're going to relitigate this in a more non-scramble brained way because this is right after the game.
We'll also have a lot more data, I think, at that point.
Yes, but I just mean what it means for Ohio State, what it means for Michigan.
Yeah,
I'm excited. We're going to have that conversation again for the actual podcast.
Yeah, I kind of need a USC Notre Dame result before we really.
I can't wait to do our show tonight, pal.
It's going to be amazing.
Looking forward to it. This is Is this the closest thing to borderline chaos that we've had in the playoff era so far?
It feels like a lot of balls are in the air.
A lot of balls are in the air. I don't know. Chaos would mean you have 9 teams that have 4 spots.
Yeah,
That's not
because
chaos.
it feels like there are 2 very clear at the top right now, and they're fine. And then
Everybody else is there. Yep.
What a day already, and it's not even. It's just like barely a third over. We'll talk to you again later tonight.